Right, hello and welcome to this next instalment of F581. This time I'm going to be talking about positive externalities. Now you may be asking me, well why are you suddenly pausing, Walter? Good coffee. Right. Yeah, so we've talked about negative externalities. Now negative externalities are where the social costs of an activity exceed the private costs of an activity. Therefore, a positive externality is where the social benefits exceed the private benefits, of an external benefit is created which impacts on the third party, but is not taken into consideration by the decision maker. That is definition of a positive externality. Okay, so if we had our diagram for the negative externality, we have a diagram for a positive externality. Now, I'm going to draw that one for you. Now we have the same labels on the diagram, so costs / benefits. I'm going to be talking more about benefits really, and quantity demanded and supply. So we talked before there was in a negative externality there's no positive externalities. So the private marginal benefit curve equals the private marginal as a social marginal benefit curve. However, in this example, because we're talking about positive externalities, we assume definitely must be a positive externality. So if we by power of deduction, there's going to be no negative externalities occurring. Hopefully this is making sense so far. So that means that the private marginal cost curve is equal to the private social marginal cost curve. So that means for the cost curve we just have one line. So we have PMC is equal to the SMC, and we will have obviously two different curves. So you get the private marginal benefit curve, and then we have the social marginal benefit curve. Sorry, I'm just got to be precise with this diagram, and I'll explain why in a minute. And this is your PMC plus subsidy, and this is for resolving positive externalities. Yeah. So that just looks like a couple of lines on a diagram. How can we make sense of this? Well, we know where the private marginal benefit curve intersects the private marginal cost curve. That's the free market equilibrium, because they don't take into account the true costs of production. So, P and E. So that's our free market equilibrium, and we'll label that D. Is it? Yeah. Doesn't matter which way around you put it, as long as you're doing your explanation correctly. I'll label this point up here F and E here, because the social marginal cost curve is intersecting the social marginal benefit curve. So therefore we can say, same before, DF, instead of external cost, it's external benefit this time. External benefit. And instead of, it was the same thing about welfare loss triangle, except instead of ABC it's DEF. So it's all looking fairly normal so far. Fair loss triangle. So I just put, instead of writing equilibriums on here, I'm just going to write it at the side because it seemed to mess things up last time. So D, and the private marginal benefit curves intersects the private marginal cost curve. We've got the free market equilibrium, because yeah, equilibrium. And then at E, we've got the socially optimum equilibrium. and obviously that's going to correspond with the price level P1 and the quantity demanded Q1. So I'll go through there. Now, you may go, alright, how can we explain this diagram? I mean, for the moment, you don't need to worry about the PMC plus the subsidy bit. So you don't need to worry about that. So what we need to do, we can explain this diagram in exactly the same way as we explain the other diagram. So the first thing we start off by saying is where the two equilibriums occur. I'm just gonna give myself a bit of space here. So we say where the free market equilibrium occurs. This is the same for both the positive and the negative, except you just change the letters. So free market equilibrium, and the socially optimum equilibrium. Free market, socially optimum, and then you say, talk about the decision maker. And what they consider. I'll go through all of these in a minute. As we did for the negative, it's going to be the same, except we just change a few things. And I'll explain why as we go through. And then after decision maker, you say result of that. And then your final paragraph is how could this be fixed, sort of thing. So the key difference before we were talking about, I know it's skipping a few paragraphs, but when we were talking about the result and the decision maker saying, oh, the decision maker price is too low, receives this level of demand. Well, for negative, the positive externalities, we don't talk about the price level because we'd mix it all up. We just talk about the demand level, because otherwise we'd be saying, oh, it's pricing too high, but these social optimum will be pricing higher, and it just get confusing. So just think we're talking about registering different levels of demand. That's the main key difference. So for these two, it's exactly the same sort of thing. Free market equilibrium occurs with a private marginal benefit curve inside private marginal cost curve. This occurs at point D, registers with a price level P and a quantity demanded Q. That's free market equilibrium. Tick. Socially optimum equilibrium is where the social marginal cost curve intersects social marginal benefit curve. This corresponds with the price level P1 and a quantity demanded Q1. I'm going through them because they're really quick. You've done them before. If you've watched the negative externality diagram. If you didn't, I'll do that. And decision maker. Now, we talked before, it's the same sort of thing, except instead of talking about underestimating costs, we underestimate benefits. So decision maker does not take into account the true social benefits, not costs, benefits, because we're talking about positive externalities, we're talking about the benefits. So the decision maker underestimates the true social benefits of private and external. Therefore, they register too lower level of demand at Q. This means they are devoting too few of our scarce resources to this good or service. So there's allocative inefficiency in the economy, and our market will fail. So let's tick. Oh, we've sort of done them two together actually. Sorry, I didn't mean that. So we've sort of mixed them together. Sorry, I didn't realise I was doing that. So decision maker, for the third paragraph, what you talk about is the decision maker is unaware of. The decision maker only considers the private benefits of an activity. This because they're unaware, they ignore the external benefits. This is shown on the diagram by DF. Subsequently, they register too low of demand, devote too few scarce resources to the good or service, market is inefficient and will fail. So hopefully that's got your mind around what I messed up there. So how could this be fixed? So if the decision maker took into account the true social benefits of their activity, they would be registering a high level of demand at Q1. This means they are now devoting the correct amount of scarce resources to the good or service, so the market is no longer allocatively inefficient and will no longer fail. Or you just say it's allocatively efficient and it will fail. It will never fail. So that all seems fairly normal. Hopefully, I'm just gonna let you pause it so I can rub this cack out in a minute. Right, you've got that? Hopefully. Completely missed my hand trying to put the pen on. For God's sake. The old freaking rubber. Made a mess of that. Ah, sorry. Just have to give me a minute. So it's all going a bit. So I've got two rubbers and one of them's a good one and one of them's a crud one. You can see I use a crud one sometimes by accident. Screws up. Okay, so we've explained the diagram. Now there's a couple of ways the government can step in here. Also, the government can step in with subsidy, which is what we're going to talk about, or it could come in with regulation, which is sort of what we said before for both the negative externality as well, which is same sort of thing, except for regulation you're releasing the regulation, so you're increasing the production and the consumption of the goods. But I'm not going to focus too much on regulation because I've already covered it in the negative externalities diagram, and you just sort of reverse it, but it works the same way, and advantages and disadvantages are the same way, so I'm not going to go over that. I'm just going to go over the subsidy because that's what's different. So before we introduced by saying how the government can intervene, well, because there's fewer paragraphs needed actually, we're going to spread it out so they have the same amount of paragraphs. So the first paragraph is going to be a bit different for this one. So the first paragraph, you say the problem caused, which is underproduction, and what the government can do. So basically, the government can intervene with a subsidy. That's all you need to put. Subsidy. And then this one, next paragraph, you define what a subsidy is. Define subsidy. I'll go through this. You define the subsidy, you sort of label its intention sort of thing and how it does that. So it reduces costs of production. Wait. Oh yeah, sorry, I was just looking at this. So you define subsidy, it's lower costs in order to increase production. And it should be equal to the external benefit. Same sort of thing as before. Yeah, except we're splitting it up into two paragraphs for this time, instead of combining them as one. So we've defined the subsidy, and you say what shifts. So the private marginal cost curve shifts to the you could call it PMC1. PMC1. So it shifts, and by how much. So we talk about the shifts. So it is quite similar. So it talks about the shifts, how much. I'm going to go through this. So this is just note form, so you know what I'm going to say next. Because people like to look ahead, try and get ahead of me. So it shifts by how much, and then like a summary again. Except we don't split the summary up into two parts, because we don't need to talk about the profit margins. Summary. Yeah. So I've labelled the main parts of the explanation there for you. Just finish that off. Okay, so the first thing you do, once you've explained the diagram, talking about two equilibriums, what the decision maker considers, the consequences of that, and how the decision maker could resolve itself. Something you need to talk about the problem caused by subsidies. Sorry, I'll move out of the way so you can see it. So the problem caused by subsidy is, as you can see, the socially optimum equilibrium is here. We're producing here. You can see we're underproducing. So therefore, the problem caused is underproduction. So we're devoting not enough scarce resources, etc. And the government can intervene with a subsidy to correct this. And that's basically the first paragraph done. The second paragraph is saying what a subsidy is. So a subsidy is a payment or a grant given by the government to the consumers or producers, mainly the producers, with the intention of increasing production by lowering unit cost. As you lower unit cost, shifts the prime marginal cost curve to the right, and this will obviously encourage production at any given price level. You don't need to say an output, just explain it for you. So, define subsidy, it lowers costs, increase production. Yeah, you actually don't say about it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, it shifts to the right, you need to say by how much from PMC to PMC1, and it should be equal to the external benefit. And then your next paragraph is... Oh, great. Oh, God, I've done it again. Right. So, your second paragraph is find subsidy, it lowers the costs, increases the amount of production, it should be equal to the external benefit. And then the next paragraph is it shifts by how much from PMC to PMC1. So you talk about you. Oh, great. I thought I missed out something. Yeah, so you shifts by how much, so it shifts from PMC to PMC1, providing the subsidies equal to the value of the positive externality and the equilibrium, so where equilibrium occurs, we'll call this point G. So point G, which is that weird G thing over there. And it occurs at point G, this corresponds to the price level P2 and a constant demand at Q1. So overall you can say in summary that the underproduction has been corrected, so there's no longer, the lower cost of production have been passed on to the consumer in the form of a lower price. This has caused an increased production from Q to Q1, socially optimum equilibrium. This means we are no longer allocatively efficient and the market will no longer fail. That is your positive externalities all done and dusted. But I'll just go over it one more time. So you explain your diagram. So your free market equilibrium occurs at point D. Yep, on the diagram. Your social optimum equilibrium occurs at point E on the diagram. They're your two first paragraphs. Obviously you talk about the corresponding price levels, etc. Corresponding price levels of social optimum. And it's first two paragraphs done. The third paragraph is decision maker. Decision maker considers so they only consider the private benefits. Hopefully, sorry, I have to cut it there. Because now the camera's about to die. But hopefully you can just rewind and go through all of that yourself, and we'll see you in another video.